Panic is mounting as alarm bells continue going off around recession, stock market collapse, and an everything bubble that is ready to pop. But many are puzzled. How could an economy that was so seemingly strong one day be spiraling into chaos the next? Everyone's looking for someone to blame, but for those of us that have been paying attention, well, the collapse of a debt-fueled system is long overdue. The best way to picture where we are today is an analogy I love to use: the Jenga economy. Picture the U.S. economy as a giant Jenga tower, where each block represents a key piece of the system. So those blocks could be commercial real estate, bank losses, government spending, consumer credit. And as these blocks are pulled out and stacked back on top, well, the foundation gets weaker and weaker. Now, some look at this tower and all they see is that it's growing taller despite the foundation. An expanding economy, the stock market hitting all-time highs, an opportunity for profit. But anyone who has ever played the game of Jenga knows that there are no winners. The game doesn't end when someone wins. The game ends when the final piece is pulled and the tower comes crashing down. But look at what's going on right now. Increased volatility, it's the point in the game when the tower starts going like this, when any block that's pulled could be the final block. Now, we don't know exactly what it will be or when it will be pulled, but we know we're close. That volatility, we know we're close. So what happens when the government can no longer paper over these cracks? How will it impact the everyday American, you and I, and what can we do to protect ourselves? And what clues can we get from what's going on right now in this mess of an economy to understand how close we are? Well, let's get into it. If you thought government spending was slowing down, think again. The gap between federal revenue and government spending has surged to over $1 trillion, the most ever on record for the first 5 months of the fiscal year, surpassing even the shock spending of 2020 and 2021. In fact, in February alone, the government spent twice as much as all revenue earned from taxes. But where is all of this money going? It's not being spent on infrastructure. It's not fixing the problems in our economy. The biggest increase in spending, it's interest payments on our debt. The United States last year spent over $1 trillion just on servicing the debt, not on paying the debt down, but just on staying afloat. And this year, interest payments are set to increase, already increasing by 10%. So the next time someone comes to you and says, oh, they've been screaming about the debt forever, this time is no different, look at them and tell them, yes, this time is different. And the reason why is because of the cost of servicing the debt. It's a crucial piece of understanding and why what's always been an unsustainable path is now finally reaching that critical breaking point. Do you have someone in your life like this, someone who doesn't see what's coming next or doesn't want to see what's coming next? If so, how have you gotten through to them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because this is something I even struggle with my loved ones sometimes. But anyone who's ever gotten behind on credit card payments can understand this concept. And I explained that government debt is no different, but the only difference is that the government can also print more dollars, which is exactly why the US dollar is in so much trouble. Don't believe me? Just look at what's happening right now to U.S. companies. Last year, the United States had more corporate bankruptcies than they have in the last 14 years, meaning the highest number on record since the fallout of the great financial crisis. But that number doesn't even account for the thousands of out-of-court restructurings and bankruptcies that are happening under the radar, not included in that total, something that was not happening back in 2008, meaning that the scope of companies failing today is far greater than what we had even after the great financial crisis. But there's no signs of slowing as fears of corporate defaults continue to rise. The reality is that these companies have relied on cheap credit for years. And now that the consumer is starting to slow down, well, how much longer can these companies really hold on for? This week, Delta Airlines CEO rang the alarm bell on consumer spending, saying that their profits would be down 50% in Q1 of 2025 because less people were traveling. And historically, travel has been one of those discretionary spending areas that is the first to go when consumers are feeling the heat. Which makes sense given the fact that Americans are tapped out. Consumer credit is now sitting at over $5 trillion. And while some news articles will say, oh, cracks are starting to form, give me a break. Americans are completely over leveraged. Not only are delinquencies rising, but defaults are rising again to the highest level seen in what? In 14 years, since 2010, since the great financial crisis. Do we see a pattern emerging here? But the worst part of all of this, what's different than 14 years ago, is that we still have inflation right now eroding every single dollar. Do not let them fool you and tell you that inflation is under control. No, inflation is still going up. It might be going up at a slower rate, but just because it's going up at a slower rate does not mean that your cost of living is not continually going up with it, that the purchasing power of your dollar is continuing to be chipped away at. And what's going to happen next? The Federal Reserve is going to cut rates at a time when inflationary policies are being put into place and we still haven't hit the 2% target that they've been fighting all of this time. Make it make sense. Is this a system that is thriving, or is this a system that is barely hanging on, especially now that we have an all-out trade war erupting? But I'm not just trying to list a bunch of things that are going wrong. I'm trying to show that everything is connected. And regardless of how you feel about President Trump's long-term goals with his tariffs and whether they're going to be successful or not, I'm not even focused on the taxes that tariffs bring. I am focused on the fact that other nations are going to be moving away from the dollar. They already are. They have been for a long time. Dollar collapse is a process, not an event, right? But now we could see this process accelerate as nations quickly ditch their dollar reserves and find ways to bring things back home, as we see an escalation in nationalism and countries moving away from a dollar-denominated system, all of which will ultimately hurt the U.S. dollar standing and the dollar's position, privileged position, as the global reserve currency, which, as I've been saying now for the better part of a year, will create more inflation, leading to hyperinflation and ultimately a new monetary reset, right? That reset that could look like a devaluation or a revaluation of the dollar. This is where we are headed. But sound money already knows this. Gold and silver, they're not just strong. I mean, they are strong, look at them, but they are essential in a system that it relies so heavily on debt. We have government debt, we have corporate debt, we have stock market built on easy credit, and we have consumers with maxed out credit. In a system that is built on debt, you have gold and silver, true money, as true stores of value, fundamental value, which is why central banks and those in power are not just buying gold at record levels, they are stockpiling gold for what comes next, because every financial reset in history has had gold and silver at the heart of it. Ask yourself this: why are the people who are in charge of this system telling everyone else to ignore gold while they're going out and buying it? What does that tell you about what's coming next, about what they're preparing for? I mean, yes, gold has outperformed the S&P 500 this year, but it's not about that. It's not about a price movement. It's something much bigger. It's about preparing again for a massive shift, a currency reset, a new system that's being brought in. And I know, again, these concepts might sound a little bit wild or big or scary, but they're only scary if you are stuck within the current system, if you are not prepared outside of the system. I read comments all the time from people saying, be your own bank, right? What does that actually mean? It means holding wealth yourself. For me, it means holding physical gold and silver, something that has no counterparty risk, that they can't inflate or revalue or devalue away. It's outside of their control. It's me taking my power back. It's you taking control over your own financial future. So the question isn't, should I buy gold and silver? Should I buy more gold and silver? The answer is obvious to that. Yes, of course. The question is really, how long do we have until the rest of the world wakes up and the new system is ushered in? Because ultimately, when that happens, it will be too late. So if you are not already protected, or you're concerned about any of this, or you want a second opinion, download your free copy of our gold and silver guide. It's an excellent first starting point. If you don't already have your copy, you can scan the QR code. You can click the link in the description below. We've made it super easy. It is so valuable. We believe everyone should have a copy. That's why we give it away for free. Now, if you want to take it a step further, if you want to take action so that you can sleep well at night the same way I sleep well at night knowing I'm protected. Talk to one of our expert analysts and understand how we can help you, prepare for what's coming next. You can, again, call us, give us a call at the number below, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description below to set up a time that works best for you. And don't be like me and maybe get off of this video and think that you'll do it later. Do it right now while you're watching. Set that appointment, get it ready to go, because it will make you feel so much better to have your questions answered. And again, be prepared for what's coming next. And as always, I so appreciate you being here. I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading, your trusted source for all things gold, silver, and lifelong wealth protection. Until next time.